Hey there, hey there, hey there. Teresa here on this third day of this Anchored in Abundance series designed to support you to anchor in abundance in the midst of this pandemic economic storm that is happening around the world. It is a time for many, many people of fear, of loss, of grief, of anger, of frustration, of true scarcity, as in they don't have food or money or shelter or places to live. And it's also a time where there's a lot of what I'll call unreal or unnecessary scarcity. It's the scarcity that is not based on like real, logical, accurate facts, but it's the scarcity that we create in our minds, within ourselves, individually and collectively, in response to those events, in response to that lack, in response to this pandemic. And today I want to support you to choose a different response. I want to support you to be able to respond in a more empowered way for yourself and your own well-being, but also because it's a more empowered way for us collectively. So when I talk about being anchored in abundance, that might be like how can we be anchored in abundance with all of this going on when there's not food and there's not jobs and there's not employment and businesses have shut down and cities have shut down? How can I be anchored in abundance? See, that definition of abundance, good morning, Bonnie. That definition of abundance is the one that we have as a culture. It's the one that's all about quantity and having a lot of money, having enough money, having plenty of things. That's not the abundance we can anchor in right now, my friends. Especially if right now you're like wondering, how am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to buy food? What's going to happen to my retirement because my 401k has crashed? That's not the abundance I'm talking about. Good morning, Cheryl. The abundance that I'm talking about is more of the blueprint for our universe. Truly, it is. If you think of the world in which we live, abundance is its design. The God or source that created this earth and in it flowers did not just create one flower. Oh, there's sunflowers everywhere in the world. No, there are thousands and thousands of different types of flowers. And the same with trees. No lake is the same. No snowflake, because it's snowing here in Wisconsin right now, is the same. Abundance is the blueprint. Abundance of life. And so the abundance that I'm talking about that we really can anchor ourselves in is this. It's the knowing, not just in our heads, but really knowing it in our core. That you and I, we are part of something bigger than us. Call it the universe, call it God, call it the divine, call it spirit. We're part of something much bigger than us, individually or even us collectively at this time in history. And contrary to what maybe you grew up believing in your religion of origin, that God, that divine, that something bigger than you is also loving, generous, resourceful, creative, intelligent, powerful, way more loving, kind, generous, powerful, resourceful than we are. That's what I mean by abundance, is first of all, just knowing we're part of something bigger. And that something bigger is always, always, always about love, about life, about beauty. Look again at the world we live in. Okay? Always, always, always. Even if sometimes we can't see it. Truthfully, I've been having so many calls. Good morning, Melissa. I've been having so many calls with people. I can't remember if it was on this Facebook Live yesterday or a different call. But it's like that something bigger is this huge river that began in that Big Bang when the world was created and will continue long after we leave this planet. This river of life, of the divine, of love. Think of a river. And right now, you and I are in a boat or a canoe or a kayak in just this section of the river. And all we can see is this section of the river. And right now, quite frankly, this river, we're in a section of whitewater. Okay? If you've ever been kayaking or rafting in whitewater, the number one rule of making it through safely is you cannot fight the river. You cannot no, I don't want the whitewater and river to take me this way. That's sure snuff. That's going to be the fastest way that you're going to tip and capsize or hit a rock or get injured. When you're going through whitewater, there is a certain part you have to relax, surrender to the current, and allow yourself to just be carried. Now, doesn't mean you don't use your paddle to if you see a rock, you try and, direct, but that's about it. And we're in right now some whitewater. And when we're in the whitewater, we forget that that's just one small part of this big, beautiful river that we're on. And going back to this something bigger that we're part of, being loving, more generous, this river, my friends, begins with love and ends with love. That's where everything is meant to flow. So, how do you anchor yourself in the knowing of that? Because these times are the times when those of us who grew up and we say we believe in God and we have faith and we trust in a God of love and abundance. Oh, these are the times where that head knowledge, we really get to practice living it, living it. And it is a practice of returning to that. And one way, a couple of ways you can do it, which is what I want to share with you today, to anchor in that abundance, that's something bigger. While so much in the world is changing, in turmoil, in upheaval, it's so easy to focus on, oh my God, this is changing, and this is changing, and this is changing, and oh my gosh, we can't do that, and we can't do that. We can get caught up in that. That's whitewater, my friends. And what we miss is how much is not changing. Do you notice that the sun still came up today? Well, it's cloudy here, it's snowing, so I didn't notice it, but it did. And it will set later today. And there will be stars in the sky still. And it's spring, and despite the snow, I can walk outside and I can hear the birds singing their springtime song. And trees are still staying. And unfortunately, the grass is starting to turn green under the snow some, so the grass is still growing. And the lakes are still melting if they're frozen, and the rivers are still flowing. And the animals are still going about their business. And my daffodils are the first flowers of spring. One of the ways to anchor ourselves in abundance is to, instead of focusing on the whitewater and all that's changing, focus on that which is not. However you need to do that. And if you live in the city and you don't have the privilege of being able to go outside and hear bird song or whatever, first of all, trust me and go to YouTube and type in birds singing or something, and you'll find videos where you can listen to birds singing and you can see woods and forests and trees, something to remind you you are part of something bigger, more loving, much more abundant than what is happening on this section of this river. Secondly, and this is what I want to practice with you right now, you can also just stop for a moment and take some breaths. Because while so much is changing, oxygen is still there for us, and our lungs are still working, and our hearts are still beating, and all of these things that are not changing, we had nothing to do to make that happen. We are just part of that something bigger. So we can take some long, slow, deep breaths, which I want to invite you to do right now. Just sit back for a moment. If you're trying to multitask as you listen to me, just stop. This is a time for a lot of practicing stopping. Another story's coming to my mind. I'll save that for another day. And just take some long, slow, deep breaths in through your nose and very gently exhale out through your mouth. Keeping in mind, you didn't create this oxygen. It's just there. It's still there for you. You did not create your lungs that know how to inhale it and utilize it and spread it through your body and then exhale. This isn't changed. This isn't changed. This moment by moment, opening to something bigger than us, this oxygen field, and letting it flow through us and then into the world to add to it. Now, as you're continuing to breathe in this manner, as you breathe in, I want you to breathe all the way up to the top of your head. Because here's where all the fears and the drama and the, oh my God, and wanting to check the news every moment come. And then as you exhale, drop down deeper into your heart. Because this is where that knowing dwells. This is what you can anchor yourself in amidst the storm. Breathe in again, and whatever energy or thoughts or whatever are just swirling in your head as you exhale, drop down, let those go and drop into your heart. As Americans, as a people, a global people, we have been so wired to always be doing something. And this major pause in business as usual in our world is an invitation to be more in connection with ourselves and with each other despite social distancing, and most of all with the something bigger that we're a part of. It's an opportunity for us to practice being in connection and trusting that current of the river that's whitewater right now, and learning how to relax in it. Learning how to relax in it. If we are relaxed in it, doesn't mean we're not taking the situation seriously. If anything, when we're connected and relaxed and open and anchored and knowing that we're part of something bigger, that this is just one part of the river, it lasted, it started long before this moment, and it's going to continue long after. And it's always come from and leading us to love, always. When we can relax in that, we're sending a different energy out into the world. And that has an impact. When we can relax in that, we're better able to do what we need to do to respond to this when we're in fear-based, worry-based, anxious-based, trying to control it based, fighting what is. So today, my friends, when and if you start to feel yourself like going off into some fear or scarcity, your body feels tight, or even before that happens, better yet, remember that with so much in our world changing, there's even more that's not. Look to those things. Open yourself to those things. Experience those things from nature and creation to your breath, moment by moment by moment. Moment by moment by moment, my friends, anchored in abundance, is what will get us through the white water, carried further down the river towards love. Be well, be safe, be smart. Thank you for joining us. If you found this supportive and empowering for you, first of all, I invite you to come back again. We'll be back tomorrow, but I also ask that you share it with your friends. And tell them why you're sharing it. Because the more we all can anchor in the truth of abundance, there's something bigger, more loving than us going on. Well, one, that helps immune systems, but that's what will get us through. So love you all, blessings on you all. Stay safe, stay smart, stay well, and I'll be back here tomorrow, same time, 10 a.m. Central. Hope to see you then.